All right, welcome to another episode of Mediocre Dads. I am your host, Quan. I go by Q, of course, and this time, this very special episode, I actually have an in-person guest because I finally convinced him to come over and actually record with me. If you ask him, he'll tell you, "Oh no, I was always down to come record." And I was like, "He's like, you just never asked me." And I did ask him, and he told me, "No, I'm not. I don't do that type of stuff." Then all of a sudden, Comfort and Chaos calls, and he's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely, I'm all about it." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I want to come on your podcast." So anyway, we're here now. Shout out to Gabe anyway. Comfort and Chaos. If you've watched this stuff, you know who this is. And if you work with me, then you obviously know who this is. So he does not need an introduction. But for those of us who are out in the world who don't know who this is my first sergeant, Geraldo Rivera. I have to call him first sergeant because, rules and regulations. But while we're here, I won't call him that.
Please don't.
Now I'm going to do it just to piss him off. And it's going to be awesome the entire time. I'm just going to be like, "Hey, first sergeant." And it's going to be very awkward asking questions because I have some serious questions. And good, I'm joking. I won't call him that. But again, very special episode as usual because I have a guest, and having an in-person guest is a big deal for Mediocre Dads because the progression that we've made from the very first episode that I did, which was at my computer desk with my phone, it wasn't that great, but to this setup that I have here, I'm happy. It wouldn't be possible without my wife. And so shout out to my wife. And it wouldn't be possible without God because I would not be where I am today without him. So, or either of them, I should say. So shout out to my wife and shout out to God, But that being said, let's, get to know Geraldo first before we get too deep into the conversation about what we're going to discuss today. So go for it. Introduce yourself to the audience. That will be the future audience, of course, but the audience.
Well, hello, audience out there. I am Geraldo Rivera.
What do you do? Don't be weird.
Oh, man.
You were talking all of a sudden, he doesn't know words. He knows 2 words, and that's his name.
2 words. That's it. Yeah, 2 words. Gotta keep it short and sweet.
That's all we got. Podcast over, I guess.
No. So I am I guess you can call it a manager out there in the real world. For those of you that work with me or work around me or work for the Army, I'm a first sergeant. And I manage people mostly. That's the everyday thing.
Managing people. Isn't it fun to manage people?
No, it's not. But sure, we'll go with that.
I heard this quote the other day that, who is Coach Tomlin for the Steelers. And he was talking about, people run away. There are coaches out there who run away from being coaches. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "I don't run away from being a coach." He goes, "I am a coach. I know I'm a coach, and I step into that role very well." And I applied to that logic to being an NCO, and I was like, I don't like it. I don't mind being a leader, but at the same time, the people that I'm leading have to want to be led.
That is true.
And I think with Mike Tomlin, in his case, you have athletes who are getting paid thousands, some millions of dollars to do what they do. So there is some level of they were required to be led. In the Army, we don't get paid. Well, I won't say we. Some of us don't make a lot, and some of us, we live in nice houses. I'm joking. Well, he does live in a nice house, but he doesn't make that much more than me. Well, I lied. You probably make double what I make.
I don't think so. Maybe a couple hundreds.
A couple hundred? See, that's not good. That's not good.
I've been in longer. That's why.
Yeah, but okay, you've been in for 16?
17.
I just hit 10 in November. So you should be getting paid maybe $500 to $700 more dollars, almost $1,000.
I guess so.
The commander makes double than what I make.
Look, man, I don't pay attention to paycheck. It goes to bills anyway. So I just make sure I have enough money to partake in my curricular activities.
Okay, so first off, a lot of questions. My brain was spinning. Okay, so when you say are these appropriate extracurricular activities?
Yes, appropriate. Yes.
Oh, okay, dope. Okay, so what are they?
So for me, working out is free. So I like to go to the gym a lot. You know that.
You have to pay for the gym membership.
Shh. That's why you go get a USAA Active Fit membership.
But you still have to pay for it. 1 and 2. You can only have USA if someone you and your family or you are active or in the military.
I'm sure someone can help you out. And Active and Fit doesn't just fit USA. Active and Fit fits for everyone. And they have another app out there as well that does the same thing. So you sign up for these apps and they give you, I don't know, you pay $25, $30 for like pick any gym you want to go to, and you can play around with it. If not, you don't like it, choose the next gym. Guess what? You're still paying $30 to that app, and that's it. You're not paying it to the gym. The gym gets what it can.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I mean, I bring this up, right? Because, I knew we were going to kind of get into the fitness stuff because, first and foremost, if y'all don't know, this man is 38.
Yes.
38 years old. I think you turned 38 in January, right?
Yes.
All right. So, and I don't mean to say like, he's old, right? But you may not be able to tell because he's wearing a flannel and all that. But I'm telling you right now, like, he's like the fittest guy I know. Between him and Gabe, and they're both 38. They're the fittest people I know. I'm not even 30 yet, and they have a the smaller body fat percentage than I do. So for those of you who know him, he's ridiculously fast. He's freakishly strong, and like I'm pretty strong. Most people see me, they know I'm strong, but like he's strong. I just don't have no other way to saying like gymnastics strong, So, but anyway, older guy, you're still fit. You freaking go to the beach. You do not look like you have dad bod whatsoever. So being 38 in the military, obviously being fit is important, but also do you correlate being fit to how being a dad? Meaning a lot of dads get comfortable, they start getting that dad bod, when younger. I mean, even myself, I had to break that, and I'm still kind of in that dad bod thing where I'm just like, oh, yeah, I'm a little fluffy and that's okay, but I don't want to be that. And part of the reason is because you and Gabe. Like I said, I'm 29, 30 later this year, and you guys outpace me 10-1 every single time. So I want to be better, 1 for myself, but 2 for my girls, because I don't want them to see me as just this fat slob that's not capable of leading and protecting them. I don't know. In my head, I was at first comfortable with like kind of like, oh, I can get large, it doesn't matter. But then I've seen people around the Army, and I was like, who are dads, and I was like, how do you live with yourself? How do you like play with your kids? Like I don't like, I was tired. I would get tired bending over and tying my shoes, walking up the stairs at work. When I first got there, I get tired walking up those stairs, so I would take the elevator, and because I was like, man, I'm just fat, and so I changed it up anyway. So being fit, is it important for you not solely just because of the Army as a father, or is it, or no, just because of the Army?
I guess, let's see. How do I, first of all, thank you for your kind words.
I mean, of course, I'm not going to lie. I literally tell everybody, I was like, yo, if y'all could be my first sergeant, I was like, this dude's 38 years old, and I'm telling you right now, don't work out with him. Don't agree to it. That's the stupidest thing you could do. Like, if those in the military, you know those leaders, they're like, hey, come work out with me. And you're like, yeah, sure. When you're like young, you're like 19, 20. My voice cracked over there. But then, as you get older, you're like, that was the stupidest thing I ever did. I'm never doing that again. I don't do it. I won't do it. He knows it. He'll like, hey, what are you doing? We're going to go do this. I'm like, no, I already got plans. And then he'll start running, and he expects you to catch up. And it's like he's running fast at like a 7-minute and 30 pace, sometimes even faster, for 3 miles straight. I can't do that. I ran a half marathon in November. I can't do
that. So, again, everyone's invited. No one will be turned back.
They'll just be hurt.
Always welcome. if they're hurt, they hurt. Hey, accept the battle you're about to get into. I think just in general, going back to the question, being fit, for me, it's always been a warrior thing for me. Eternally, I battled things that back home as a kid. I was a skinny little thing. didn't have like, yeah, I was probably cut up as a kid because I played a lot of like handball, basketball, baseball, ran a lot. Then did things that I probably shouldn't talk about in this podcast. But nevertheless, I stayed active, right?
There's people that know us that watch this.
But staying fit now, like, it's not so much about being physically fit, but more about the mental aspect behind it that gets me to where I am still to this day. Because like you said earlier, I want to be able for my kids to be able to be proud of their dad. And it's kind of a lifestyle at the same time for me. Just because I started it back in, since I've been in the before I've been in the army, actually, when I used to work for UPS. And I was throwing packages into like 5 different trucks, trying to be fast, trying to do like everything I could to make sure I got this like $200-$300 paycheck a week. It was pretty sad for me because $50 would go to Union News. So I was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had to go work out because I had a truck that had nothing but mechanical parts. And so the mechanical parts could vary between weight. So it could be 5 pounds. It could be like 50, 75. I don't know. And then the amount of like the length behind it too. So from that day on, I kept going to the gym. And then as I figured out like my schedule in the army, I figured out like the times that I needed to go to the gym and the times that I didn't need to go to the gym. And then what I did outside of the gym, like for running, cardio, stuff like that, I did that when the time afforded it. And so once I figured it out, like it wasn't just the physical aspect, but I had to be mentally prepare myself the entire time. And I would spend an hour before going to the gym. And this could be like now, like I go super early, right? I go to the gym at like 4:30, 4 o'clock, sometimes 5.
Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I know. But nevertheless, in Hawaii, I spend an hour just listening to motivational videos. And it didn't matter what it was. It just something that would pique my interest, and I'd be like, okay, this is the thing. Now, I'm going to spend 5 minutes to drive or 10 minutes to bike to the gym because I stayed on post. So it was like quick and easy. But from that day on, I kept that going. So now I don't spend like an hour watching motivational videos. I get up. My back hurts, and I just get up.
Oh.
I go in the shower, and that water's hitting my back, and I'm waking up ready to go. And I got pre-workout to run through my body right when I know I need to throw it in. But my motivation behind that is that I'm getting up, and I don't want to be in the bed anymore, and I don't want to be in pain, and I don't want anyone to look at me as a liability. So the biggest thing for me is being a liability to anyone. And I think if I'm physically fit and I'm mentally fit to take on the next day, then I am capable of continuously doing what I'm doing every morning and just getting up, putting my clothes on, putting my clothes in my bag and going to the gym, then I am good. But like for the army, like it seems like it's a lot for a lot of people, but for me it's been a constant schedule, a consistency that if I go to the gym and I work out for 30 to 45 minutes or 2 hours, doesn't matter. It's the consistency of just going there and doing something is what makes me fit. It's a mental and physical just combining itself together and being able to complete the task that I have right there. And that's why I just do that every day. And if like, and maybe Saturday and Sunday are like my off days, but Monday through Friday, I'm just going. Like, there's no thought process. It's just go.
I know. I know. I was telling someone today, I was like, y'all, so my first round called me and said, I need to take a PT test or ACFT. I can take an ACFT, whatever, no big deal. I don't care. I don't want to. I don't want to, but I'm going to because he said I have to. But no, I was telling him, I was like, this guy, we had a week of ACFTs, and he literally took the ACFT as his PT. Now, keep in mind, like he said, he wakes up at 4:30. He's at the gym 4:30 in the morning every day. So he does that. And then 9 times out of 10, if he's walking up to formation at like 6:20, 6:22, that means he finishes workout late and he just got done changing, probably in his truck, into PTs, and he was coming over just from the gym. And once the flag goes off and he gets accountability, he's gonna go work out some more. And I was like, yo, like that's how, like, in his mind, I was like, him and like David Goggins, people like that, there's something broken in there. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I love working out, but like the level of like, hey, I need more. And it's almost like you're like chasing a high. And it like, it is not a bad thing. I think men who are physically fit and capable will always have that, almost that warrior mindset, like you mentioned, in them. And as men, as fathers, we need that, because as fathers, we're protectors. And it's so easy to just fall into that dad bod mentality of just like, man, I'm just gonna kind of put on some pounds, eat what I want, and whatever the case might be. But I don't know. Anyway, I say all I say because he's just a freak of nature when it comes to physical fitness, and he's 10 years older than I am. So like, well, 9, but yeah, still, like I'm very jealous of that. But I try. I definitely try. I definitely put in a lot of effort to do it. But yeah, just insane. So you have 2 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
3
total.
Yeah. Boy, girl.
So my girl's my oldest. She's 13, and then my 2 boys.
Okay, and they're under 10 or?
Yeah. So the 2 boys, 5 and 4.
5 and 4. Okay. So with your oldest, and you being fit, does she see that, and does she strive to be physically? I know, like 13, like kids they're naturally like, they're just, they got so much energy, right? But still, there are a lot of kids, especially today. The obesity rate within the United States has risen, especially within children, because of COVID, and we're not. It's seen as toxic masculinity if men are telling them, go work out, go do 100 push-ups a day, go do 50 pull-ups a day, and do that every day for a year and tell me what happens, right? But like, that's like toxic masculinity. But we have obesity rates throughout the roof, even within the United States Army. I think the statistic that I last saw was, I think it was over 70 or 80% of people in the Army are technically obese.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's crazy, right? Think about that. Your fighting force is defending your freedom, is most of them are obese. So, America, let's go win some wars. Anyway, except him, we're good. The rest of us are cannon fodder. But he's good. He'll save us. No, for really, but like really, with being a dad, so they're your kids. Does that mentality, does that drive, kind of shed off to your kids? Do you see your kids kind of doing things because you're like, oh well, dad's doing this, I gotta make sure I'm doing it?
So for my 13-year-old, because she doesn't live with me, she has more of the smarts than anything. Really, really like super smart. And again, all 3 of them are like super smart for sure. The only thing is like she has a smarts for sure. I don't know, like if she's doing I don't know, like recess or like a lot of like sports stuff. Not so much, but like she'll do band and stuff like that.
Oh, so that's nice.
Still, it's a mental thing for her.
Yeah.
So I think she has those parts. I think for my other 2, because they see me all the time, they see the physical aspect. They try. They'll pick up a 2 dumbbell that I probably have underneath like the rower machine in the garage, and the oldest will like hold it all the way up and be like, Dad, look, I did it.
Yeah.
And if you go on my IG, you'll see like a couple like videos or some reels that I shared where the kid, I'll be in the garage working out, and he'll come up and try to do some of the things. Kids love to mimic what they're doing, what their parents are doing. So like he'll be in there trying to do push-ups and stuff like that. It's some of those old videos, but he still tries to like get in there. Now, genetically, they kind of picked up like some of the muscle features behind it, and I think it just takes time for them to get into the scope of like fitness and things like that. And it's just kind of I think it's kind of like our duty to kind of like get them into that aspect as well. But I think they're kind of young, and they're still trying to figure out like what the fun is. So when they do come to the garage, always welcome. When they're not there, hey, go at it. Go run outside. go crazy. I think it's fun for like anyone underneath 10 to just enjoy the creativity of the mindset more than anything else. Because once you have a creative mind in play, I think it comes in play with the physical aspect, because you can build like half of the weights you put together now, like concrete, some wood, some PVC pipes, something, right? And you can build some type of apparatus to work out in, right? You don't necessarily have to pay for the gym now. It's easier to go to the gym because everything is there.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to build your own little park and playground, I mean, the DIY videos are out there. You're good to go. Everything's on YouTube. So like, why not create something on your own? And I was thinking about this the other day, was kind of the one thing you don't see in a gym is a yoke.
Yeah.
And I would like, because the only time I messed around with the yoke was in Fort Riley. So I would like to build the yoke to take over to where we do PT and just have it there or whatever. But again, I think somebody would steal it. Don't get any thoughts and ideas.
Someone would steal it? Yes. Yeah. Me. But then also, very few people would be like, yo, as soon as we get out, we get the command to fall out. Everybody run away to your cars, because he will make us do it.
Probably. But nevertheless, I think like that type of mindset is what the kids need after 10. I think starting young is great. For me, I think at the age of 10, they understand what's going on a little bit better. So at their age, they're kind of still, wandering, having a lot of imaginary stuff going on. They want to play all the Coco Melon they want, all the Nickelodeon, all the cartoons they want.
No more Nickelodeon, stay away.
But all the cartoons they want to watch. So let them watch, let them have fun. If they want to join in on the workout, they join in. And if they don't, I'm not heartbroken.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think kids will mimic what parents will do when they feel like they need to. That's it.
Yeah. No, so kind of shifting gears here, because you mentioned Nickelodeon. I don't know if you've seen the stuff that's been going on with the Nickelodeon, the Amanda Bynes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Bynes. So hold on, let me see. So basically, I guess this documentary just came out, and the producer, I don't remember the guy's name, but like she was being sexually assaulted, and even the guy that played, was it Josh Bell, but he played Drake Bell or something on Drake and Josh, the skinny guy.
I'd have to look back at that.
But yeah, anyway, no, so like just crazy. Anyway, I guess this documentary came out, and basically they were showing these little clips, almost like behind the scenes, if you will, of certain situations that stood out to people, where they were like, oh, this was a clear indicator that this person was a predator. And I always found it so intriguing, because, intriguing, I guess maybe that's the wrong word, but I saw it, and I was shocked, because the producer there, that main producer there guy, basically he was sexually assaulting this young lady.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So and from a very young age, and grooming her essentially. And he groomed, from my understanding, Josh Bell character, but terrible stuff. And the first thing I thought of, because I saw a few reels on Instagram. The first thing I thought of was like, where the parents were, right? Where are the parents for this young lady? Like, here's, if I'm a parent, and I'm exposing my kid to this adult world of Hollywood, if you will, even back then, right? I'm gonna be there. I'm there, right? And I'm making sure I'm figuring out like who's who, what's what. But these videos, you're like, where was the parents? I would never in a million years allow my daughter to be anywhere alone in 13, 14. She's on Nickelodeon, whatever the case may be. I would never allow that. I'm there. Hey, Mom, you're there too. Mom's not working. Go figure it out. Go see what's going. Make sure everything's on the up and up, and she's good if this is what she wants to do. But one of the videos, it was the moms said, and it was for her daughter who wasn't like the main character, but she was like a co-character, or like a secondary character, I guess, that was in the show. And she said, she goes, sometimes he would have these outbursts and whatever the case might be, but she goes, I didn't want to ruin my daughter's future. And so, excuse me. And so I didn't say anything. You're a grown woman watching these kids get yelled at and yelled at in the sense, like, I'm not talking like kids in basic training. I'm talking like 10, 11, 12-year-old kids getting yelled at by a grown man because they didn't get a scene right. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Different days back in the day.
100%. No, I got you, right? But that still doesn't mean the mentality, the attitude of protecting your kids should be the test. They'll be able to go through the test of time. There should never be a time period in which we say, "Oh, well, it's different days. We don't protect your kids then." No. That should go through the test of time.
No.
So the fact that mom had the audacity to be like, "I didn't want to ruin my daughter's career." No, you didn't want to ruin her career because you wanted to continue to ride her coattails of success, and that enabled you to. So if you did say something and she got fired, that meant the money stopped.
The money stopped. Yep. It was all money.
Yeah, I'm never riding the coattails of my kids unless they say, "Dad, you don't have to work," and Dad's gonna be like, "I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can just stop and just live off of you." But hold on, let me look this up. But I mean, while I'm looking this up, what are your thoughts? Like, do you, as a parent, and I know the obvious answer. I know your answer because I know you is gonna be, hell no, that's not gonna happen. And the answer is probably gonna be like the New York side's gonna come out of him. But those of you who don't know, yeah, he's from New York. Well, kind of. He's from Puerto Rico, but then New York is where he claims. So, but yeah. Anyway, he always says it. He's like, yeah, they're gonna make the New York side come at me. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna like go minimize this as much as possible because none of us don't want that. None of us want that. I'm being very honest with y'all. None of you want that. When a person says, hey, they're going to make the New York side come out, New Yorkers are mean. All right. Like, I'm a bully, like a nice bully. New Yorkers are mean bullies. Like, they're the bullies you're like, yeah, I don't like you. That's just like mean. You didn't have to take it that far. I get it. I was being mean, but you didn't have to be like a jerk. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only time you call someone a jerk. You're being a jerk right now. But still, anyway. There was a question in there, I promise.
I don't remember the question now.
Man, the question, this is what happens. Every time I start talking to him, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to stay on track. We're going to go A, B, and C. It never happens. So you're just going to have to bear with us. But no, it was, if you were a parent in that situation, right, are you there? Are you present? Obviously, you're a father, so you still have to provide for your kids, right? But like, are you there? Are you present? Or is your wife there? Are you present? Or forget, I won't even put you all in the situation. What do you say to parents who with that justification of like, well, I didn't want to ruin my kids' future? What do you say to them? What comes to mind when you hear that?
I would say weakness. One word, just weakness.
Yeah, and weakness mentally because of they're afraid of they're gonna get yelled at. You weakness because of they want to. Of they're afraid of their kids gonna like disown them. What do you mean?
So weakness is allowing others to parent for you rather than you taking the initiative to parent for your child. And so with that being said, if your child's making money or you got your child in a stardom, I don't know, like starting up for some breakfast thing or like a breakfast cereal or whatever, a show, right? And you're allowing things to go on, knowing that things are there presently, knowing that you are the parent, that's weakness. You should have done something in the beginning. If you were that person's father, mother, it didn't matter. Like, you should have done something knowing that it's wrong. You should have stopped something from happening entirely, because once you allow things to go on, they will continue going onward, and you won't do anything. And guess what? That kid will be torn up inside mentally for the rest of their life, and so forth. Why Hollywood is going through what it's going through is because that was weakness.
Yeah, I love especially with the parent. Well, what I found interesting was you don't see any of the fathers, right? You don't. It's not to say they don't have fathers, but you don't see any of the fathers within these documentaries, right? And I don't know if they're present or if they're not present, if that's the reason, but like the value that presence has, and I've said this before, but the value that a presence has when it comes to being a father is essential.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the thing that separates between mom shows up for, I don't know, a random little school event, kid's happy. Dad shows up, the mood has changed. The mood in that room shifted completely. And I say that because I think to the moment when my daughter was having this little basketball event, and it was at her school, and she said, "Hey, Dad, can you show up?" And I was like, "Well, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure." And I made sure I told work, I was like, "Listen, I'm not gonna be here. I'm heading out. Like, this is more important." I put my uniform on every morning for them. So like, if they got an event, I'm gonna go do that, and I'll deal with the consequences later. But anyway, I showed up, and in the beginning, I was like 2 or 3 minutes late, and I'm watching her because as I'm coming through the door, they're already started. And there's very few parents in there, and I'm watching, and she just can tell she's kind of going through the motions, but sad. The moment she makes eye contact with me, oh my goodness, Dad, let me show you everything I can do. And I'm talking like she went from like the kind of like the sluggish one of the sluggish kids that were just kind of going through the motions to like, I'm the number one bird. I'm number one here, and I was like, I loved it because it made me happy to know like that's her way of like showing like, Dad, I love you so much. All right. And I think that's so important. And that's why I say why presence is so important, and why I go back to where were the fathers in these situations?
I mean,
I'm not asking you like, where were they? But like, the fact is a lot of times people will in the society so easily will say, F them. They don't like, if they have, especially if they have baby daddy drama, like, nah, I don't need them, blase, blase. But like, dads are so, I wish there was a more detailed way I can articulate this. And I mean, that's the point of Mediocre Dads, but like, the dads are so important, but we're so easily tossed to the side.
So I think that just depends on the dad, though. So not every dad will be there as a father figure. Some dads are just biological. I can't even say it anymore. Some are birth parents, right? You got birth parents, or you got parents.
100%.
Now you got birth parents. They gave you birth. They created life and everything. But then you got parents. Your parents are people that you look up to. The two most responsible individuals that you think in your life as a child that you can say, that's what I want to do, or I want to be better than you because I don't just love you, but I respect what you're doing. And I think that's the one thing that people are missing out on. You don't have to be a biological father.
Yeah.
You don't to be a father. You just have to be a father figure for someone. You can be a father figure for a nephew, a niece, stepchild. Doesn't matter. Like, you can be a father figure for a friend's kid because they don't have a father figure. Like, at the end of the day, when you are in the life of some kids, right, and they are looking forward to a male figure to show them what is right from wrong and what is wrong from right, they're looking at that person as a father figure.
Yeah.
I have 2 fathers. I have my biological father and I have my stepfather. I learned from both of them. Love them both to death. I don't think there's anything different that I would change from any of them. because they're totally different people.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from them in order to make myself a better father for
100%.
my future children. Now, I wasn't thinking that early on, but I took those lessons learned from me being the kid that I was, from both my fathers, and then applying that to my children now. Now, I think as you grow up, you start saying, is that the right thing or is it the wrong thing? But they need to see both. They need to be allowed to see something wrong. They need to be allowed to see something right.
Yeah.
Because they need to know what their left and right limits are. And if they don't know what it is, they're going to think everything is right. And that's not right. They need to know what is right. And if you want to be a father figure, then you got to be allowed. You got to allow yourself to be in that kid's life and be willing to put the time in. Do the things that you need to do as a father figure. Because if you don't do those things, you're going to have a rough time. You're going to have a rough time with that kid listening to anything you say, whether you're a stepfather or a real father. Like, it doesn't matter, but you got to put the time in. The time is the most important. And it doesn't matter, like, if you only get like 10, 15 minutes. The important part is that you're in that kid's life and that kid's willing to listen for that moment. You know, that's the part where, like, in me as a father, like, if people can listen, like, if kids can listen to me for about 5 minutes, I'm happy with that. Like,
yeah.
I don't need you to listen to me for an hour. It's just the short time I have with you. If you can listen, that means that I've caught your attention, that I'm important for you for that 1 minute or that 30 seconds that I get for you, that you listen to me. And I'm like, all right, great. That puts a smile on my face. My heart's warming. I'm good to go. But if I don't do that and I just say, here's the money, good to go. Hey, good job, kid. See you later. Then I'm not being that father figure. I'm just providing what needs to be provided, and that's it. I'm doing the bare minimum. I got to allow myself to do more than the bare minimum. If I do more, I put the time in. I start accounting for all the time that I'm doing in. I'm being that father figure because I can see the behavior. I don't need the reciprocal back. What I need to see is that kid is growing up to do the right thing, and they know what is wrong, and they can come up to me when they feel like it, and they're honest about it and say, yeah, hey, listen, I did this thing. Okay. Well, what did you learn from it? Well, this is what I learned from it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. I got you. Understood. Or, hey, Dad. Or, hey, G, I got this problem, and I don't know what to do. I was like, oh, okay, you asked me for advice? Cool. Sweet. I'll try my best to give you the best advice. But then at the end of the day, like, you coming up to me and asking me, like, makes a smile in my face, you know?
Yeah.
Or like, you see my eyes just kind of glistening. Like, that's the thing that most people won't see, like, from a father figure. Like, you have to get that from a father figure, whoever that person is, whether it's your real dad, stepdad, or like an uncle or whatever. Like, take that. Like, don't be afraid to take that and just own it. Like,
yeah.
That's the time for you to show someone, hey, I may have all daughters, but I got this boy coming up at me. You want to learn something? All right, let me teach you my best, right? Or the other way around. It doesn't matter, but like, those are the moments that you're just like, that makes me happy. That makes me feel important. And that's all a man needs at the end of the day. They don't need a lot. They just need to feel that importance behind, hey, I'm important in your life. Great. Let's do this. Let's go. You want to play baseball? Let's go play ball. You want to go just sit down and just talk? Then let's go do that. Like, if that's what it is, that's what it is. Because we grow up in a society where, like, everything where dads are like very like, yeah, man, should have did better. Or,
oh,
hey,
yeah, I know that.
Hey, you know, you come from my family, but I don't know if you in my family right now. Just sit down, think about that, do better next time. Like, don't get me wrong, those are lessons for sure But nowadays, as we continue to change, we have to adapt to how kid reciprocates what we're saying and how they take it in. Kind of like when we talk about gentle parenting, talking with Gabe, right? I still don't believe in gentle parenting.
I don't either.
Nevertheless, because
Kind of.
yeah, there's a half and half,
Yeah,
for sure. But you should
75-25.
you should never best friend your kid. Your kid needs to know
Boundaries.
the boundary of being a parent. Because I think and at the end of the day, we could be misleading the gentle parenting thing a little bit, but that's how they portray it right now, right? It's to be someone's best friend, the kid's best friend. But you don't have to. Like, you show the kid what discipline's like. You show the kid what's right and wrong. That's the important thing behind it. Like, we don't have to like take out the belt or take a slipper and hit a kid or anything like that. We just have to let them know, hey, this is wrong. You need to understand, and I need you to do better. But I understand where you're coming from, but you need to do better.
Yeah, I think, but a lot of times it is, it's because of society has changed, right? So we were you mentioned, right, when I mentioned the Amanda Bynes thing, right, that, times have changed, right? Meaning society has changed, and society has now, especially millennials, I'm in that generation, or in that group of a generation of people, is everything in our childhood is trauma, right? It's some form of trauma. There's never, I've heard from very few millennials, it's like, I learned a lesson from this, right? Like, it might have been like, not the greatest time, but I learned something from it, right? But it's a lot of society has changed over time. And so now a lot of parents are doing the gentle parenting thing because they're like, well, I need my kid to like me. I need my kid to want to hang out with me. And, this idea that we built in our heads especially when I was young, I saw the kids who had like a friendly relationship with their parents, right? And I was like, man, I'm jealous of that because that's what I want. My parents are strict. But then fast forward to now, and I'm like, those friends who had those parents who were like best friends, it's almost like nothing's changed for them, right? They're kind of still in that place. And it's not to say that's for everyone. It's just that I think that it's a balance between the new form of parenting, of gentle parenting, and then as well as, the old school parenting, if you will, of like, nah, hey, I'm all for giving out life lessons, and sometimes it's with the belt. Like I don't spank my kids with the belt, but my kids do get spanked because I do believe in that. We should spank our kids. This might sound like it's not a favorable opinion, but I think our kids would be better off with that spanking, with getting spanked, not all the time, but understanding when they do get spanked, like, okay, I clearly did something wrong right here. It was egregious enough for me to get spanked that, okay, I need to, hopefully it allows them to think like, all right, what did I do wrong? Why did I do that? Whatever the case might be. But I wanted to ask you brought up, we as parents set the standards. We as parents, tell our kids what is right? So how do you determine what's right? What's the foundation of I guess being right? Is that, because we all know internally, we know, like, if I go to the store and I take a pack of gum without paying for it, I know that's wrong, right? But if I go to church on Sunday and I just got paid on Friday and I don't put any money as the offering comes by, is that right or wrong? Right? Did I just do wrong by not putting my 10% in there? We can get into the Christian beliefs or the spiritual beliefs behind putting your 10% in, but still, from a morality standpoint, or did I just do right or wrong by not putting the money in there?
Okay.
and I could put $5 or $10 in there. I could, but did I do wrong by not doing that? Right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
so what for you? What's your foundation to say, hey, this is how I determine what is right, and this is how I determine what is wrong?
So, I go back and I say that at the end of the day, the rules that guide me to do what's right from wrong are the laws that are in front of me right now.
Okay.
With that being said, the laws just don't stop at the governmental part, but they also start at the spirituality stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in term, you also you mentioned like putting $1 or $2, right, into the serving dish, right?
Mm-hmm.
As the ushers come through, like I don't think that you need to put money into the box or serving dish, whatever's out there in any of the churches. You don't have to do that to do what's right.
Right.
That is just you saying, okay, I would like to give an offering up in the fact that you utilize this money to benefit for the entirety of the church and its belief behind it. I think that's where that one rule comes into effect, right? That's one of those rules that I've learned entirely throughout my life, that just because I'm Catholic or any other type of Christian or I'm just gonna just put money into a church and that's it. I'm hoping that the money's utilized for the right reasons.
Hopefully.
But at the end of the day, I don't know. Like, I don't know exactly what's going on now, because I'm just doing it because everyone else is doing it. But as I go older, I say, hey, okay, I know why I'm putting the money in now. It's not only for the church, but it's for the services that the church provide, for the belief behind the church that I also believe and agree with. So like the church I go to, we provide money at the end of, a service, or like we just put in some money and we donate it because we're hoping like it goes to like some type of retreat or some type of thing that's going to benefit the church, the children, the entirety of the church.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, like I go to the specific church, right? Because it's not just a church. It's a family going together and just sharing the same beliefs and ideas. That's what the church brings into my heart. And I say, yeah, I'm going to continue going to this church for that reason, because not only does it bring family, but we all believe in kind of the same things. What is being taught on Sunday through the end of the week is pretty good to me, because I see it in the videos or I go and attend it when I can. Those are my same beliefs. So I'm going to continue to provide to that church because I think their beliefs are still the same, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's just me personally, right? Going and saying, hey, my same beliefs are compared to that, right? And those are one of the rules. I think like faith comes into play with my rules. The government comes into play with, because you can't get away with everything. As you get older, you end up in jail. So it's a bad thing, right?
You can't get away with everything.
No.
Listen, words mean things. You can't get away with everything. That's what he said.
So you got to be, you got to do what's right by what's in front of you, right? Is it right for me to go and save somebody else's life in front of a burning car, burning building, anything like that? Every day we don't deal with that. We don't know what it feels like. But when that person's there dealing with that decision ultimately plays because of their laws and rules are in effect. So either I go in, I save this person, and either I come out with this person or I don't, but I save this person. That's that Samaritan rule in effect. That's one of those rules that you have to be willing to say, hey, I will sacrifice my life just to save another, and I don't care what happens at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I get you. So I think and this I don't want to sound like I'm completely like red pilled over here.
Oh,
I think was it called red pilled? I don't know. Anyway, I think it's red pilled. So men we are, and I said all the time, and I'll say it again, we're protectors, right? And we're protectors, and so you have an individual person who inside of a burning building, and men of old, I would say, would have no problem being like, I'm going in that building without any questions. And if I don't come out, my family understands. That makes me think of there was this the school shooting. This happened. I think it was Iowa or Ohio. I don't remember the state exactly, but this principal, he had been the principal for that school since early 2000s, or even I think it was like 1998 or whatever the case might be. So he had a very caring feeling for the school and for the students that went to that school. The shooting happens, and I think it was within the cafeteria. And this principal, from my understanding, he takes on some bullets, but then he basically goes in to take down the shooter. Mm-hmm. Now, his daughter came afterwards. I believe he didn't make it. Last time I saw the reports, I don't remember exactly. I don't think he made it, but his daughter came out afterwards and was like, "That's my dad." She goes, "I would expect nothing less from my dad." Mm-hmm. He loved those kids with all his heart, and he cared about those kids in the school. And the moment I heard something was going on at his school, she's like, I already knew. Not that my dad was gone, and because someone wanted to hurt him. She's like, I already knew without a doubt, like, what he was willing to do to protect those kids that were at the school. He would protect those kids like it were me. They're protecting me, and that lives in my head rent free, essentially, because it makes me think of like, that is what a dad is, and that's what a man is. That right there, that is an example. A man, and school shootings, all these things are tragic events, but that right there, that's what a man is. He didn't sit there and think like, oh no, what if, right? What if I didn't do this? Where am I going to go hide? He was like, nope, I have to make a decision, and that's either I can protect myself and know I'm going to lose a bunch of students, or I can minimize as much as possible. And I think in the end, he was able to protect and save a lot of students. I think there was like 2 or 3 students that ended up passing, unfortunately. But a lot was because of him, and there were other staff members that helped try to basically take down this individual. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep into the school shooting stuff. Man, it makes me angry. But I want to get into kind of shifting gears again into a conversation about, you've been deployed before.
Yep.
And you've been deployed many times, I think.
We'll just go with twice.
Go with twice, or Oh, okay. 2 times. He's only been deployed 2 times, guys. To ignore this number over here, 2 times. Anyway, for those in the military, you know what I'm talking about. So those
seriously, only 2 times.
I said only 2 times.
Okay,
that's what I said. Only 2 times. And that was to Iraq and Afghanistan?
No, just Iraq.
You just went to Iraq. Oh man, what years?
So 2009 to 2010. And then 2016.
You were in Iraq in 2016?
Yeah.
To 2017?
2016.
Oh, just a whole year? Or?
Whole year, yeah. Well, yeah, something like that.
I was in Afghanistan in 2016. One country over. Anyway, you were a father by that time, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, and you only had your oldest, right? Your daughter?
So yeah, actually yeah.
Okay, I guess both of them, right? Or
just my daughter.
Just for both deployments, you only had your daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're deployed. How long were each deployments?
12 months.
12. Oh gosh, dang, 12 months. I only did 9, and I couldn't wait for it to be over. So. And I wasn't a father by then when I was deployed. I had a deployment baby. That's insert my daughter. So you're deployed. You have a daughter. what's that like? What's that like for you, being gone and not being able to one, be the protector that you want to be for her and your wife at the time, and but also, having that willingness, because you're still doing that, you're still in the Army, and you've been doing it for 17 years now. That's having that willingness to make that sacrifice, to say, yeah, I'm going to deploy, and I'm, I might not come back, but I want to, and two, I'm required to, because I have people that are relying on me, right? So what's that thought process as you're there for between, especially the first few months, and then as it's winding down, you're coming home? What's the thought process as trying to be a dad, but also trying to be a leader?
Okay. So we'll start with the first deployment. Since the first deployment, she was still in the belly.
Okay.
I hadn't really had it so much. It was just kind of make sure that I made enough money, and that I came back for the birth. I think that was two things that were in my mind the entire time. And, I did the whole tour as best as I could. I still did my job, but I spent nights where I would stay awake and do a lot of like video calls and like phone calls and stuff like that, just to see what's going on. And then I think in the middle of my deployment is when I found out that there was birth being given. And so I immediately told my supervisor, did the whole thing. I ended up, like a week early, I guess, into like where I needed to link up to, but then I was like 2 days late to the actual birth. So like as I was on the phone, I realized that my daughter was being born, and so I was still in Iraq, and I haven't left. So my daughter was born as I was getting ready to go into a flight to go to, the connection flight.
Yeah.
And then from there to go. So at that time, like I was like, oh shit. Like at first it was like radio silence, So I was like, what just happened? And I'm calling back. And then like I called, it finally got through, and I hear a cry, and then I'm like, all right, awesome. That's great. Happy, joy, all that good stuff. So I go back home, spend my 2 weeks of R&R, and I get to enjoy that time, basically. A lot of it was just kind of like, it's a repeat for me for all three kids, because I spent as much time as I could the first couple weeks with them on top of my chest, and just kind of just staring, me sleeping with the kids, the normal stuff. And then after that, it's just kind of like, okay, I just need to be there when the time comes. And then the second deployment, still my daughter, didn't have any other kids in the way. So at that time and moment, I was just like, okay, my daughter's, a little bit more older, and I called when I could, and she lived with her mom, and I was doing my own thing. So it was kind of different. I didn't think too much about it, but as long as I kept contact, that was the most important part for me. And I focused on basically the job set the entire time, because to me, as long as I did my job the best way I could, one day at a time, and paid attention to the rules that I played on, I was able to see my kids pretty much not the next day, but like, the end of tour, basically. The end of tour.
I got you.
And that's the most important part about it, is just like the end of tour. Am I going to make it to the end of tour? And during 09 to 10, because that was like the last of OIF, it got a little hectic, but not as much as like the start of OIF. I was just like mind blown, like with everything that was going on and how much we were like engaged with After that, like going back for a second turn was kind of like, okay, I know what was going on before, but I have no clue what's going on now. Because I was going into a whole different dynamic with a different mindset. A lot older. I wasn't this young kid anymore. I was much older, and like I knew the country I was going to, but I didn't know like what was going on.
Who the players were?
Yeah. And once I figured that out, like it slowly caught up, and I was like, for me, my security in myself was very high, so like my job was the most important thing to me at that time and moment, because I had to get to the end of tour on that one. Considering the things that I had to do during that time and moment. And it wasn't at the same capacity as it was the first deployment, where I had like numerous people there. This one was kind of more minimum people.
Yeah.
At the mercy of what was going on. I was just like, okay, I need to be very, very high security alert on my mindset. And then while also thinking of like coming back at the end of tour. I always say end of tour, but it's just, I want to get back home, be able to relax, have a beer, and then be able to talk to my family. Yeah. So like if I don't get to talk to my family, I didn't get to say the last word that I needed to say. And like, I'm like, shit, what, why didn't I say what I needed to be said? But, like to this day, I try to make sure, like, even going to work now, like, you never know, like when your time's up. So like, I try to say the one thing is, I say, I love you. I'll give a kiss. And that, I'm always hoping to make it home every day. 'Cause you never know what's going to happen. And it's just like, oh, like what's going on today? And,
that's one of those things when you're deployed. I remember being deployed and thinking the first 3 months were the hardest 3 months of my life. Yeah, because I was definitely scared. I was afraid to get blown up. That was my thing. I didn't want to get blown up.
I was the complete opposite.
Oh, I would have much rather take bullets than an explosion.
I could tell you that it wasn't so much of bullets or the explosion. I was mostly excited.
Okay, well, like I said about you and David Goggins, there's something in your brain that's broken. Okay, I lied. This is gonna sound bad. I wanted to go to Afghanistan. I wanted to go. Right. But I was still scared. Right. But I wanted to go. And if the call came and said, hey, we need to go back to the Middle East, super freaking hot, by the way, I would go. And I would say back to my kids. I'd say bye to my wife. And I would be like, I'm getting on a plane, and I will contact you when I can. And I would go. But, when you were there, especially in Iraq, especially 2009, gosh, dang. After that, I would not want to be there in 2009. Your kids and your daughter's, she's not born yet. Well, obviously, as towards the end she was born. Are you thinking about the consequences of each action that you take? Meaning, I'm not saying you were out there doing something wrong or illegal, but like now every action you take, you think about the consequences, versus when you don't have children, you're kind of just kind of like, it is what it is. I don't know if that makes sense. Like for me, it was like, I was like, it is what it is. Like, damn the consequences. But the moment I had my daughter, I was like, what are the consequences if I do this?
So I think I don't want to say brainwashed, but
you were definitely brainwashed. You don't have to acknowledge it. I will acknowledge it for you. You're definitely brainwashed.
No, I think
drank all the Kool-Aid and some more.
I drank a shit ton of Kool-Aid. I didn't think so much about the consequences so much until like after.
Like after the
entire tour, yeah.
Of the first one?
Yeah. So for me, it was kind of more like I was there to do a job,
Yeah.
and I've been working since, I don't know, since as a kid, whatever it is, right? So for me, everything's a job for sure, right? But while on deployment, I was there for the job, and I needed to do it in order to make sure that we all got back home.
Yeah.
That was the most important thing. The fact that if I didn't do my job, I didn't allow myself to help everyone who was with me the entire time. Because we were a company element in the middle of like west of Baghdad, in the middle of nowhere, pretty much in west of Baghdad. And all we had was our battalion, which was closest to us, which was still like 2 hours away. So if something happened to us, we were hoping that the helicopters would get there as soon as possible in order to go out. And even then, like, we got attacked like most of the time. But like the entire time, if I didn't do my job, then most of us would not have made it back home.
Were you going? So you were a humidor, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were going outside the wire? Were you guys? What is it called? Were you at a fob, or were you at basically like a compound?
So it's kind of like, I guess to me both, it's the same, but a small compound.
Small compound.
Yeah.
Was this a group thing, or this was regular?
Regular
okay.
armed force. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh man.
Just a company with like, I don't know, on the other side of the wall was like some like Iraqi army dudes, and we don't know how many were there. Sometimes maybe 2.
You know.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So you're surrounded by nothing but farmland. So like,
oh yeah,
and T-wall barriers. So like, we were the security. We didn't hire anyone else. We were the security entire FOB.
When I got to Afghanistan, it was a FOB Gambury. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I'll never forget, and I'm sure it was the same in Iraq. The moment you land in Afghanistan or any combat zone, it doesn't matter. You're not getting off the plane and you're not going to sleep. You're getting off the plane and you're getting briefed. Now, I landed in Afghanistan at 2:00 in the morning, and we have our bags, and you're doing the duffel bag drag on the airstrip, and you're just thinking to yourself like, this looks like NTC, and if we landed in NTC right now, this is what it looked like. And anyway, I remember landing, going into this room, and this video starts playing, and it's telling us about IDF and what the sound is, incoming, and all that, like all the sirens and the different whatever. And I remember sitting there watching this, and it's 2:00 again, 2:00 in the morning. I'm just thinking to myself like, I don't know if I was mentally prepared for this as much as I thought I was. And then I remember like, okay, all right, it's okay, it's cool. We get the very next day, I get to FOB Gambury because we rented in Bagram. So I'll get to Gambury, and you get the same brief, but this time you watch the video, and then this first sergeant comes out, and he comes over, and he's like, "Hey guys, I'm First Sergeant such and such. I am in charge of the Maricel here, and everyone who's inbound who comes in here, you come through me and my unit. I just want to be very frank with you guys. Blah blah blah." He goes, "Last week we got mortar rounds, whatever, blase blase." He goes, "But they actually hit in our FOB." So FOB Gambury was a smallish FOB, but then surrounded by an A&A base or an A&A compound thing or whatever. So anytime mortar rounds came in, the A&A DFAC was getting fucked up. That A&A DFAC had stood no chance because they were trying to hit us, but they kind of suck, and so they would hit that DFAC all the time. And but he was like, "Yeah, hey, T-wall, the HESCO barriers over there. Yeah. So as you're walking, so to get to where I lived, you had to walk up this massive hill, and he goes, he showed us because he showed us where we were all staying. He was like, "Yep, that's where the shrapnel, all that stuff hit," and you could see it. You could physically see that, like those are new. And so like I remember sitting there thinking to myself like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm good. I am good. Scared. And I remember kind of looking, and there's the older guys who've been here, who've been there or been here before, and who are kind of used to it. And I'm thinking like, y'all have kids. I don't have kids yet, and I can tell you, if I had kids, I don't know if they would be able to get me out there. Right. And that mentally, that's the time. That's what I'm thinking. I've done it now, and I would go back. I would go back, and I would have no problem going back. But I don't know. To me now, whenever I do something, whenever I want to make a decision, I always think like, okay, how would this impact my kids? Like, how would that affect my daughter if I said yes to go to, and I say the Middle East because, you know, Israel and Hamas stuff going on right now, right? Like, for whatever reason, we just, as the United States, we just love the Middle East. Like I said, I hate that place over there, but we always it seems we're always finding our way back over there. And I'm just like, okay, if I have to go back, I'll go back, right? Like, I put on the uniform. I do it for my kids. I do it for my wife, but I am proud to put on the uniform and do it. But I do realize in my head, like, I'm a dad first. And so it's hard for me to try to convince my kids, right? Like, and I feel like I have to convince them, like, hey, I'm a dad first, and I love you, and I want to be here, but like, I have an obligation to go over here, and if I go over there, I'm not guaranteed to come back. And so, like, I think about the consequences, that decision making of like, well, if I don't go, am I letting other people down, the people around me, preventing somebody else from potentially coming home? You know, I don't know. Like, it's just it's weird for me because I just now when I think about things, I'm like, man, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could be so eager like I was before to get on that plane. I think there would definitely be a lot of hesitation, and there would be a lot of mentors would have to convince me, like, hey, no, you're gonna be okay. But then also God would, you know, please protect me. You know, like you said, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. You know, like, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, and that's a scary thought. And I don't think a lot of people think about it because they would much rather live in, you know, more like naive lives of just being like, I'm just gonna go through life, and if it happens, I'm like, gosh, why did it happen to me? Versus like, I'm not guaranteed tomorrow, you know, so I should cherish every moment. But anyway, I won't get too deep into that so it doesn't get too super sad and depressing. That's not my goal here. Our goal is to have fun. I promise. I know, but all conversations seem to be depressing. The next one is, I guess, going to be depressing too. So I remember you mentioned to me one of your sons, he has seizures, and he has them often. Is there something is called something specific that he has that causes the seizures, or?
So he was born on time, except my wife had something that happened to her during that day, and she had to go get a C-section. So during that C-section, kid came out, and then the kid wasn't like his blood was still acidic or whatever. So they asked for a blood transfusion. So we give him a blood transfusion. I signed off on it, whatever. And then they take him over to the NICU. The entire time he's had like seizures coming through they do like a 48, 72 hour thing from like cold hot therapy. And then when they warmed up his brain, like, he had another seizure. And like
in the NICU? Like,
yeah,
this is like NICU. Shortly after him being born?
Yeah. Oh, so, and he's had like a couple seizures going on in his brain while he was going through code therapy as well. So ever since then, he's had several seizures. Can't really recall all of them, but like pretty much every year it's happened. He's been given 2 different medicines to counteract or prevent as much as possible. But the name, I can't remember the actual name. So from one neurologist, it was kind of like, hey, until the age of 5 or 6, I can't really diagnose. But there is a seizure disorder in play. I just don't want to give it cerebral seizures or something like that. It's like a thing that happens with kids right away, right? With the babies. And then it's during childbirth. And those are supposed to be short term and They only last so long until the kid's brain fully expands, right? Then they're gone, apparently. But he was diagnosed with something else, and like from all that, internally we found out that his brain wasn't so affected as most people when they have their seizures. Most of his cognitive skills and everything that's still in there is still in play. He still has seizures no matter what, because he still has partial damage in his brain. And sometimes he kind of forgets, or he's repetitive about a lot of things. And so those are some of the things that happen with the seizure. And there's a lot more, just me paying attention to what he's doing. And if he's sick or something, like his seizures taking place more often because his body is going through like exposure, high temperature, and coldness and everything. So his seizures start to take over afterward. But yeah, I can't really recall like the seizure disorder name right now. I'm sure if I ask my wife, she'll probably know more. But I just kind of pay attention to what's going on, because he'll get very like clingy and like come over and just like, okay, I'm getting tired, and then all of a sudden like it's like a stiffness in his body, and then from there I know what's going on, which we have kind of like the 5-minute rule of just kind of pay attention for 5 minutes, and if it gets worse, then I provide the emergency meds as necessary. And if something happens within the emergency meds, because the emergency med lasts 24 hours, if something were to happen during those 24 hours, straight to the hospital, that means that the seizure has gotten worse than what it needs to do. But we can't, like, I can't stop it. I can't, there's no way of me helping what's going on except to pay attention and to follow what's being told from the doctor. And then, because if I don't, then that's it, right? So like, it's more of a, don't get too overwhelmed with what's going on in front of you with the seizures, but pay attention to what's going on, so that way you know how to react to it appropriately.
Don't get too overwhelmed. I mean, that's crazy. Your kid's going through something, and you.
I can't.
So I know when people say seizures, so I guess what I think of as seizures is like your body's pulsating.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like,
yeah.
And that's for minutes. That's going on for minutes.
Yep. There's literally a 5-minute rule, basically.
5 minutes?
It's a 5-minute rule. So for the first 5 minutes, you let the thing happen. If the thing lasts more than 5 minutes, then the thing is going way overboard. If it's under 5 minutes, just let it happen. Let it go. It will probably stop at the 3-minute mark, 2-minute mark, whatever it wants to stop, right? But anything longer is what you have to like worry about. Because just because something's happening doesn't mean you overreact to that right away. Because when you overreact to things, you start doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You want to be able to provide the right thing. So for me, when the first time it happened to me in my arms, my kid going through what they were going through, like I was flipping out. Like I didn't know what to do. I was like, blah, 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 blah. The next time it happened, that wasn't my thought anymore. That was kind of like, pay attention, kid. Like I'm telling myself to pay attention. And I'm pretty much following myself, I guess, or coaching myself through it. It's just like, hey, this is what you need to do next. Be prepared. And so like, because that happens so much, like I've learned to just be patient. I have to allow the process to go through the process. If I don't allow that process to happen and I start doing something, I can make it worse.
Yeah.
And if I make it worse, then the kid dies. And that's not what I want.
Yeah.
What I want the kid is come out of it, be awake, be able to enjoy the rest of the next day. So I have to be patient. If I am not patient, I am going to overwhelm what's going on, and I'm going to overreact and do something wrong. So I need to pay attention. The following events, like the next like seizures that happen afterward, like I paid attention and just played it patient. Now inside me, I was just freaking out. But what you saw outside is all patience. Inside, I hated it. with every passion. I hated what was going on. I hated it so much that I hated myself for not doing something. That I had to stay still. That I was like solid frozen. And that I just had to wait to do something. Like inside, I was just like, I needed to do something and I couldn't. And so that was that one time where I'm just like inside the entire time. I'm like, fuck. Like, I want to do something, but I can't. And, but at the same time, I have to be logical and patient and look at the situation for what it is and take my time with the situation before I overreact and do something worse. And I don't want that.
And so with that, like, he still gets them.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna have it go through this for the rest of his life, or
pretty much.
wow.
Unless his brain recovers on its own and by some miracle it doesn't happen, like right now, like,
so it's something in his brain that's causing it. It's like
damage in the brain.
Okay, got it.
So anything that happens, because your brain is your computer, your
right.
emotions, right? It keeps you going, right? If something happens to your computer, the computer no longer works, right? Or there's glitches in the computer, right? So it's just like the brain. The brain is a computer. If something happens, like concussions, when things start happening that hit your head, it affects your brain. You start getting a negative impulse from it. Start having short-term memory, long-term memory loss. You don't know what's going on, hallucinations, things like that. Tumors in the brain also conduct bad impulses, things that go on. So like, that's the thing. Like your brain is being damaged right now. The neurons are not going through the actual things that they need to be doing. And it's kind of like how a dam stops the water from flowing into its direct channel. Like once you build a dam, this is as much water as you're going to get. It's the same thing with the brain activity. You're only going to get so much brain activity. So you have to be able to like be prepared for when things go on, but you have to like let things happen because it's just how it works.
So what was the first year like then? Was there, or even I would even say that first month. I mean, was there? I mean, I know there's a lot of emotions going on, and especially between you and your wife. So like, is it just I just gotta let it happen, and I'm gonna be as strong as possible, or is it just like how do I do this?
So first, the first thing that goes in my mind, who's allowed to be the strongest and who's allowed to be the weakest?
Okay.
It's my first thing that comes into my brain, right? And what I mean by that is which parent allows themselves to go through the weak moments and which parent allows themselves to hide those weak moments, and they have to show the strength behind everything. And so for me, I allowed my wife to go through the emotional stages while I tried my best to stay strong. And so I gave as much time to my wife to go upstairs into the NICU to do everything. And when she needed a break, I would go up there. But at the end of the day, like, I had to, like, every day just not allow myself to cry, not allow myself to not allow myself to feel sad, depressed. None of those emotions were not allowed, because I had to be the strong one. That was my interpretation there at that moment. In that moment, I was like, hey, I need to be strong, because I have to allow my wife to just go through those emotions that are going on right now, to allow her to air it out completely. So, yeah, a lot of those things were tucked into the little fanny pack, or whatever we want to call it. And I just had to bring out a different image the entire time. Yeah, I probably joked around and did all these other things, but that was a mask hiding behind everything else, you know?
Yeah.
So that was my first thoughts. And after that, like, once I understood what was going on and how things were going, I had to allow myself to say, hey, I need to let this shit out, because if I don't, it's going to get worse for me. And if I don't do it, it's just going to go crazy, and I'm going to have mental issues myself. So,
Yeah.
So I had to vent as much as possible whenever I could, but not to show it so much.
And did you lean on her a lot? Meaning, were these times that you needed to just kind of vent and let those emotions out? Was it to her, or was there someone else in your life that you leaned on for that support? Or
thinking back, all the way back, and I kind of keep most of my emotions to myself anyway.
I know.
Really, like,
I know. Y'all don't know that, but I know that. I know that.
I don't really share them unless it's I'm drinking or something.
He lets other people share. It's part of his training.
But when I am, and like, there are moments when I talk to MFLAC, or, you know, one of those counselors out there. I would let most of the venting out, but I think at the end of the day, I was more of a ear, like her ear, to let her say what she needed to say and just listen to her. And I'd be like, you know, I feel your pain. I understand where you're coming from. Or I'd just be quiet and just listen. And then I'd go find my own way of dealing with the shit later.
Was it, I mean, I'm sure this is where a lot of the gym comes from. Of this, but was there a lot of, did you question God, like, hey, why me, why him, why, you know, and I know in these moments, right, in these moments that a lot of times we may think, like, it couldn't happen to me, right? And so did you question God, like, hey, why me? Did you, and if you did, was it, all right, well, I'm done, or did it bring you closer?
So I don't think I questioned it so much. I didn't doubt. I did doubt, actually.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so much as me saying, you know, God, I hate you, or like,
Right.
a lot. It was more of kind of like, damn, I did something in my past to deserve this, right? And so, like, at the end of the day, I'm like looking back at my life, and I'm like, I don't remember enough to be like, hey, shit, I remember what's going on, that I did something to affect this, but I don't know that for sure. And it was just kind of like, I can't think about those thoughts.
Yeah.
I can't allow doubt to be in the fact. Like, the only thing in my mind was to be like, hey, God, can you give this kid another chance every day? It wasn't so much as like, oh man, what did I do in my past? I didn't care about that at that time and moment. The thoughts did cross my mind, but at that time and moment, I was just like, no, this is not the time or the place for it. Like, at that time and moment, it was kind of like, I will allow my breath to take that kid's time. Like if my soul needs to go into that kid's soul, then fine, take mine, whatever. I don't care. Like, but that's what was going on. Like for me, it was kind of like, hey, I'll pray, hold your hand, I'll talk to you. I know there's more to this. This is not just temporary. I'll be here until you end, regardless.
Yeah.
And I just asked for more time. That's it. Like,
Man. So you have prayed that, you know, if you're like, hey, if it's him or me, it's me.
mm-hmm.
I have prayed that myself several times. Several times. I have a friend who he lost his son, and it I won't get into the weeds of the details of how, but he lost his son, and he was young, and it broke him. It really broke him. And I didn't know what to say. It was kind of like when there's very few moments in my life that I've not known what to say. Very few. And it was one of those I had no idea what to say. I wanted to help. I wanted to be a shoulder he could lean on. I wanted to be a confidant of which he could talk to, and I tried to be that. And in some aspects I was, but it got worse. And it was, he called me when he was a bottle in. And he was drunk calling me. He's like, I love you, and all these things. And he's saying all these things, and he's just, you could tell he's really hurt. And I'm trying, and I'm trying to, it didn't help that I myself was buzzed. It was a Friday, Saturday night, whatever. And I'm trying to, but I'm also wanting to help him, and I'm trying to figure out what the right thing to say is. And I finally realized, and this was a year or so later, that I was like, the best thing to say was nothing. But I was too busy trying to say the right thing. This hook and sink catch liner where it's like, oh man, it's gonna solve all your problems. Legitimately thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna solve all your problems with this by saying this one thing, right? Basically watched too many movies in my life. And I realized at that moment, like, just say nothing. He literally just wants somebody to talk to. And so I remember talking to him one day, and I said and I remember kind of saying to him like, hey man, like, you know, I know you're, you don't believe. Like he's basically an atheist. He's like, nah, the God thing, you know, I'm good, right? And I was like, it's like, hey man, you know, I know you don't believe, but like the power that prayer has over your life, and the power that of just continuing to show up, like you said about the gym, right? I was like, you pray every day, twice a day. I was like, I guarantee you, you're going to start feeling minor changes in your, and I'm like, listen, nothing can replace the fact of what you lost, but excuse me. I was like, it starts small. So when he got into a program for, I'll call it, he came to me one day, and he's like, hey man, so I just want to share this with you. And it was one of their, basically a devotional, and I knew right then and there, I was like, like I said, I wanted to say the right thing, and me saying one of the simplest things that I didn't think it was the right thing at the time. I was just kind of like, just pray about it, man. You know, like, you know, get devoted to prayer. That was the thing that he latched onto, and he stuck to, and he that's what he got through it. And so I say all to say, because the power that prayer has in all of our lives is amazing. And, you know, I'm not great at it myself. I'll be very frank and be honest. I suck at it to the point where I sometimes think I'm praying to a genie, if you will, in the sky, saying, "Hey, please give me these things, and my life will be so my life can be better." Versus giving thanks, right? Just giving thanks for, you know, for the things that I've had in my life. And I remember someone saying that, you know, all the things that you prayed for a few years ago, look at it now. Do you have those things? And I do. I prayed for years ago, prayed for kids.
Mm-hmm.
I prayed years ago to have a house that I can call my own.
Mm-hmm.
I prayed years ago that me and my wife would be in a great place. I prayed for all these things, and the small things in my life that I'd take for granted, I prayed for all of them. And again, they were prayers of where I wasn't the devout believer I am now, but I was just kind of like, well, if you're real, you'll make it happen type thing. But then years later, it's all happened to me. And so I say all I say is because the power of prayer is amazing. And, I think that if we got back down to the roots of prayer and we prayed more and more, we would see the fruits of that. I think back to when Moses, even David, when David would pray, he was a devout prayer. He was a man that was all about praying, right? And between David and Moses, even Aaron with Moses, I think about when Moses came back down from Mount Sinai, and he had spent 40 days and 40 nights up there. He came back down, and the Israelites at this time, they're worshiping this gold calf that Aaron had basically built for them and blessed mm-hmm. with, right? And he is just like, I just got done talking to God. I didn't drink or eat anything for 40 days. I come back down with the two tablets that he wrote, and y'all are out here acting a damn fool, mm-hmm. right? And he goes back up to Mount Sinai, and he asks, and God's ready to wipe all of them out. He's like, hey, I'm going to start over. Y'all can't figure it out. And he's like, he begs God through prayer to say, hey, no, please give him another chance.
Yep.
That to me, that is what true belief in prayer comes from, and what it looks like. And David did it when his own son was coming after him and ready to kill him. David prayed, and Saul was chasing after him even to kill him, and he prayed over and over. David had a chance to kill Saul, but he didn't, because he knew that God chose him. God chose Saul, and David had this belief. David made sure, he said, who am I to kill or harm a person that God's chosen? Mm-hmm. And so, but through prayer, that's what David, he was able to do that. And all those successes that came with it, right? And so I use them as examples to say the power of prayer in our lives is powerful. And so it's Good Friday today, right? And so with Good Friday, obviously Sunday is Easter, and Good Friday is the day that Jesus was crucified. And so before he was crucified, before Judas comes over, kisses him on the cheek, and the Pharisees arrest him and say, "Yep, and the Pharisees, the religious leaders, it's the Pharisees and the Sudis, the Saudis. I don't remember how to say the name. It starts with an S. They come over, they say, "Hey, this is him," and arrest him. But for that, Jesus was praying. Mm-hmm. He was praying, and the first prayer that's annotated within Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is he's asking for, I'm not sure about John, but Matthew, Mark, and Luke, he's asking God if I don't have to do this, if I don't have to take this burden on, then please don't make me have to. Mm-hmm. And God doesn't say a single thing. 0 answers. And then he goes back down because he only took a few disciples up with him to go pray. He's like, "Hey, guys, just stay up with me." He goes back over and he prays. And he's deep into prayer. And he's like, "Hey, if I have to take this on, I'm willing to take it on." God doesn't answer again. What happens next is Judas comes in and arrests him. Anyway, the power of prayer. I don't know. For me, in my mind, when it comes to when I talk about these things, when it comes to prayer, I use the examples in the Bible because they're so easy to read over. But then when you apply them to your life, you're like, oh my goodness, prayer. When Job was being tested, essentially tested, right? When the devil was like, "Hey, I'm going to make Job, denounce you basically. Job prayed. And he asked God, like, please help me, God. Tell me why. What did I do to let you down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was prayer that got him through that. I don't know. I say all I say is pray, right? Pray, guys. I know I can go on a long tangent, but pray. And I get all preachy on people, and some people don't like it. But anyway, pray. The power of prayer is so amazing. I don't know. I love it, and I have to remind myself over and over to do it. And I'm just like, hey, like I can do anything. I can literally just. It may not happen now, but it will happen. It will happen later on. Anyway, I got all preachy on you. But let's end this on a high note. Not such thing super negative, and I promise you, all my podcasts are not super sad. So you can come back on. We won't talk about sad stuff all the time. But ending on a high note. What's next for you? So you're 17,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously 3 more years left until you can officially retire. And are you going to do the 3? Are you going to, next year, I guess you can technically drop your retirement packet. So are you going to drop your retirement packet and say, hey, is this it? Or are you waiting for something? Like what's next for you? I mean, it doesn't have to be military, but I know that's most of our lives. So.
No. God willing, I move on to one more rank, and then I get to retire, to be honest. If not, I take on the retirement 20-year mark and call it even. I think at the end of the day, like, for me, after my first sergeant duty, I would like to go into a staff and kind of do something different. But again...
Ooh, S3's open.
I'm sure it will be. But
I know a guy who's no longer going to be there.
But at the end of the day, I think that's what I'm looking at. I'm mostly looking at trying to either go to MLC and then finish that, and then...
Can you say what that is? I don't know what that is.
A master leader course.
Oh, okay. Oh, you guys said go to... I thought you said TLMC. I was like, I have no idea what that is.
MLC.
Oh, okay. All right.
Master's Leaders course. And that'll cover at least the last of the NCOES stuff that I want to accomplish before I get out.
You want to be a sergeant major?
Ooh, boy, that's a lot. Nah, I'm good. But again, God willing, whatever like he puts in my table, I'm going to accept the journey and drive on, because if the challenge is there, then I'll take it. And if it's not, then, hey, I got other challenges that are waiting for me to take on, to be honest. So,
are you doing anything right now to set yourself up for when you get out? Meaning, like, are you going to retire and just be like, hey, I'm done, I'm just going to chill out for a while? Or are you going to retire and be like, nah,
man, I'm going to go sit in a park, feed pigeons, and just call it even.
Oh. You got it all figured out then. You going to move back to New York and feed pigeons?
No, I'm not moving back to New York.
What do you mean?
No, I don't.
I wouldn't move back to New York. I mean, well, I'm not from New York, but I wouldn't go to New York. I wouldn't move back to New York either.
No, I'll stay in Texas for sure. I'll look for something to see if I land on something.
Lockheed Martin's always hiring.
I'm sure they are. But to be honest, it's I think whatever I can get into, I'll get into. I'm not picky about the job so much. I'm just trying to lock in like extra cash.
Are you trying to continue to do like human stuff or no?
Nah, I'm not worried about the human stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's not a big deal.
Oh man,
it's whatever pays off, because what you learn in that job is a skill set to be applied to another job. So
manipulation.
No, it's not.
He's been manipulating the entire time. You just got played.
No,
welcome to Mediocre Dads, guys. You just got played. You just got punked.
No. I think. Like, seriously though, I'm happy with whatever job I land into, as long as it's paying the bills.
Yeah.
Whatever I have left, I think I'll be happy with that. As long as I don't have to deal with managing more than 50 personnel, I think I'll be okay. I think it gets too complicated once it's like 50 plus, because it's just too much going on, and then
It's a lot of personalized.
Yeah. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. But I think whatever I can land on, I'll be happy to take on, whether it be a janitorial thing, garbage picking,
Oh,
a 6-figure income. I don't care. Like, I'm cool with whatever as long as it's comfortable. I'm at my peace, and I get to provide for the household until they all get out and do their own thing. Like, I'm happy with it, to be honest.
are you gonna kick your kids out when they're 18?
My kids can leave the household whenever they want to. I'm not worried about that. I didn't have that. I didn't have that rule at home either. So.
Oh, you didn't have that rule?
No, my mom wanted me to stay in that household the entire time. I was like, nah, I'm out.
I'm good. Well, so I asked that because it wasn't necessarily a rule. My parents were like, you can stay, but you got to be doing something. So like working or going to school. And so like, I was like, well, I'm already working. And then my dad was like, I'll pay for half of your school. And I didn't realize how much that was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I should have gone to school, but
Well,
I joined the army. So,
well, my parents, for me, my mom wanted me to do school, get my education, get a degree,
yeah.
and then move on my own, like create a family, do all the good stuff when I was ready. And I was like, okay, cool. So I started going to college before I went into the army. And I've been working since I was like, I don't know, 10, 13, around there. So, so I was already starting on that journey. So my mother already kind of trusted. She didn't like the decision of me going in the army. But nevertheless, I told her, hey, I'm a grown up. I'm going to take this journey. It is what it is. So
I guess I should ask you in the beginning, but what made you say, yeah, I'm going to join the army?
Ooh, boy. Okay. So I'm going to make it short so that way we don't stay long. Okay.
It's late our time.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, at first it was because of 9/11, and I was still in high school during that time, and I never really got to join. And I don't know if it was more because I was afraid to go in at 18 or like because my mom didn't want me to go at 18. So at that time, my mom, I kind of waited and said, let me do the college thing, see how far it goes. But then, like, I got bored. And I'm a kid that, like, when, like, and I say I'm a kid now, but I'm, like,
he's not a kid. He's grown up.
but I'm the type of person who likes adventure.
Okay.
And I need adventure. I need thrill because I just need it.
You're a thrill seeker. We got it.
Yeah. So
I know. Listen, those who know him, you know this. It's not anything new, you know.
But I literally needed that, and I was like 6 credits away from finishing my associates, and I saw a recruiter at the train station right by my household, and I was like, hey man, I want to join. He said, sure. We're offering all this. I was like, great, yeah, I just need to know when I leave. So we sat down, we talked. He gave me the whole recruiter speech and all that good jazz and stuff. And I was like, that's great. When do I get to take a test? And so I set up everything, took my test, got my ASVAB score, got my job. Not the job I was looking for, because I wasn't looking for like a certain profession. I was just kind of like set me up and give me something. And then I saw some NCO, and like the NCO was like, hey, what job did I offer you? And I was like, these are the 3 jobs. And I told them I'll think about it. And then they were like, oh, you should do this one. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. And then I was like, I went up to the guy, civilian dude that's giving you jobs. And I said, hey, I'll go for this. And it was the human thing. It was still called the interrogator thing before that.
Oh, really? Oh, you joined way back when. Well, I guess you're almost 20. Is it?
Don't let them know.
I'm trying to do the math.
No, it changed while I was going into actual MOS. Mm-hmm. So when I went there, he gave me the job. I said, you know what? I'm going to go home to Puerto Rico for 6 months, and then I'll go to basic. And my recruiter was kind of like, his eyes glared up a little bit, and he was like, oh, okay. We'll just push back your basic. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So I went back home, and then after that I came back and I went, hey, I did everything I needed to do and closed out all the chapters I needed to, and let's go enjoy life now. So.
Join the military, like officially ship off?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. You were excited to go.
Oh, yeah. I wanted it.
Oh, man.
So.
Oh, my goodness. Well, all right. Listen. See, all right. We talk about a lot, guys. All right. I'm not going to lie. We talk about a lot. And with mine, I like to talk. And, obviously, he likes to talk as well. I say obviously, but it's obvious to me, okay? Because we spend a lot of time together, so I understand he likes to talk as well. But that being said, something's loose in his brain. We all know this. You've listened to him talk for X amount of time. I don't know how long we've been on here for. I keep trying to look. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know which. I can't. My camera's super far. I can't really see my computer over there. I don't really know. I think we've been.
It's almost 11:30 our time.
Yeah, but I don't know if we've been like 2 hours.
I don't know. Yeah.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Something's loose in his brain. He wakes up at 4. Look, and he's gonna go to the gym, and he's gonna maybe not tomorrow, but he's gonna go to the gym, and then he's gonna be like, yeah, hey, we're gonna go run 3 or 5 miles. And he's gonna be like, yeah, well, you're weak. Because when I say my body hurts, he's like, well, you're weak. And I'm like, no, that's not fair. Anyway, it's not important. He said it to me before. It's deep. But anyway, guys, that's it. That's all I got for you. All of his information that he is willing to share with you will be down in the description because, some people don't want you to follow them. I'm not going to lie to you. Some randos start following you. You can, just be like, nah, I'm good, man.
Oh, I don't care. My IG is live, so.
Oh, it's like, is it open? Like, it's not locked?
It's open.
Oh.
Go for it.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'll put his info down in the description. Anything he wants to share, any cool stuff, and we'll go from there. Thank you for joining Mediocre Dads. If you've made it this far, this is awesome. Thank you for stopping by. I know one person in particular who's made it this far, and that's my mother-in-law. Shout out to my mother-in-law, Trish. I know she's gonna watch this and get to the very end, and because she watches all of my stuff. Some would say she's my biggest fan, minus my daughter. But that being said, I got to finish with this because she tells me I have to finish with this every time. Being mediocre is a choice, and refuse to be mediocre. Refuse to be mediocre. Other than that, that's all I got. And Mediocre Dad's out.